The undisputed king of the Sachsenring, Marc Marquez, can't defend his crown. So who will be our first new winner at Germany's Sachsenring in nearly a decade? As Quartararo and co eye the throne. It's time to race in MotoGP. It's our shortest venue on the MotoGP calendar, just 3.6 kilometres in length, dominated by 10 left turns in its 13-turn layout. Scorching hot conditions, a real ultimate test coming up shortly of both man and machine. We've had record lap times already so far this weekend. The first sub-80-second lap here at the Sachsenring, and overtaking hot spots aplenty around this compact layout. This was Marc Marquez early on at the final corner on Aleix Espargaro as he took an 11th consecutive win here in Germany last year. Coming up then in MotoGP, it's pole for Pecco in Germany as Bagnaia seeks a third win in 2022. Fabio Quartararo aims to stretch his 22-point World Championship lead from second. It's a front row start for France's Johann Zarco, pursuing an elusive first MotoGP win. And fourth on the grid, can Aleix Espargaro bounce back from his Barcelona blunder and return to the top three? Welcome back then to Eastern Germany as we get set for round 10 of the 2022 MotoGP World Championship here at the Sachsenring, where it is scorching hot. The hottest conditions we've had of the weekend so far, just as was forecast. 35 degrees ambient temperature facing the MotoGP rides over what will be 30 physically and mentally demanding laps. The track temperature, how decisive will that be in terms of the rear tyre choice? 51 degrees. It's likely to climb as we've still got, what, just over half an hour to go before the MotoGP title chase in 2022 reaches the halfway point. I'm Matt Burt in the commentary box with Lewis Sotheby. Down in pit lane is Simon Crafar as this man, Aprilia's Aleix Espargaro, tries to claw back some of the 22-point deficit he has on series leader Fabio Quartararo. Of course, the big mistake 2 weeks ago in front of his home crowd. Heartache for Aleix Espargaro. Yes, that's a sign. It is very hot and humid here. It's more Sepang than the Sachsenring, but this man, of course, looking to bury the demons of Catalonia 2 weeks ago when he started from pole position in his home Grand Prix, celebrated one lap too early and gave away a gift, 9 World Championship points to this man Fabio Quartararo, who starts from second in a packed Ducati grid, certainly in the first 3 rows. Quartararo, the world champion and our world championship leader after his second win of the season in dominant fashion and last time out in Catalonia.
Yeah, the front row of the grid, or the front 3 rows, are filled with Italian bikes, aren't they? Fabio Quartararo on the Yamaha, the only non-Italian bike on those front 3 rows of the grid. Quartararo is sitting coolly in his pit box. He's certainly got a real chance of victory here today. The start of this Grand Prix, as it so often is in MotoGP, is going to be all important, although of course we hope it's not quite as dramatic as the opening lap was in Barcelona 2 weeks ago. Quartararo's late braking manoeuvre on Aleix Espargaro and this man Pecco Bagnaia really was the key to his victory. He was so aggressive and put so much work into his tyres in the early stages of the Grand Prix that Aleix Espargaro and co were unable to close him down as the race went on. Pecco Bagnaia, though, with his record pace on Saturday, set an new all-time lap record in free practice 3. Wasn't quite able to match it in qualifying, but was still the only rider on Saturday afternoon in the more 19th. He starts from pole position as he looks to close back in on World Championship leader Fabio Quartararo.
Bagnaia leads an armada of Ducatis in that top 8 on the grid. 6 Ducatis, including one of them in the possession of this young man, Fabio Di Giannantonio, who's got an excellent recent qualifying record for the Gresini Ducati team, hasn't he? A former Moto3 and Moto2 race winner, Di Giannantonio. That's the 3rd race in succession, hot on the heels of his stunning pole position in Mugello. He's qualified inside the top 5. He sits in between Aleix Espargaro and Jack Miller on that 2nd row. Here is Jack Miller then confirming that he's no longer going to be part of the factory Ducati team next year, on to Red Bull KTM Factory Racing, and he will have a long lap penalty, making life more harder for him in this 30-lap battle. Crashing under a yellow flag in FP4 at turn 13 just a few moments earlier. This was Aleix Espargaro being pursued by his factory Aprilia teammate Maverick Vinales early on in that 4th practice session. Aleix down then at turn 13, and the yellow flags, the digital yellow boards, were in action. They were activated, as you'll see on the right hand side of your screens there. Jack Miller knew, he had seen the yellow flags. He said he had tried to back off, he had tried to slow down, but some vibration problem. You can just see it there actually, the juddering on the front end. Vibration on the hard front tyre meant Miller quickly followed Aleix Espargaro into the gravel, and with the yellow flags still active and still being waved, that will cost Jack Miller, who starts the German Grand Prix, the race where he made his Grand Prix debut here back in 2011, a long lap penalty.
Yeah, with a chance to serve very early in the race. Someone's already making an offer to Jack Miller to exchange his gloves following the end of this Grand Prix. We'll see if Jack Miller is going to return the favour. A smile from the Australian. Maybe that's his answer to the fan in the grandstand there next time, he says, for Jack Miller. So yeah, he's going to have to get his elbows out early on. And of course, if he serves that long lap penalty, that's likely to drop him into a lot of traffic early in this Grand Prix. And we have seen on occasions this season, particularly in these hotter temperatures, with the temperature going up in the front tyre, it is very, very difficult if you are in a pack. So Jack Miller's going to have to be aggressive early on. So too this man, Enea Bastianini, who starts way down in 17th position on the grid, wearing a pretty glum face there in the box, although he does now give us a smile and a wave to the camera. He was very downcast after qualifying yesterday, understandably, given that he's way down on the 6th row of the grid. Very, very difficult weekend, as he pointed out himself yesterday. It's not easy, given that his regular crew chief is not here this weekend, Alberto Durabuola, who has COVID-19 and is therefore at home rather than here at the circuit. It's just upset the whole working procedure within that Gresini box. So Bastianini on his back foot and starting on the 6th row of the grid.
Trapped in a nightmare weekend right now is Bastianini. This man has had an excellent weekend so far, and he's about to sign up again with the Prima Ducati squad, isn't he, for 2023. That's good to see that young man there. Gabor Talmashi, the Hungarian, who had a lot of success back in the 125cc World Championship back in the day. Zarco will start from the front row of the grid. It's MotoGP appearance number 94 then for the 31-year-old Frenchman. Will it be finally on the top step of the podium for the Ducati man? He had a crash though this morning at turn 13 in the warm-up session. He was 8th in the race here last year from pole position. But yeah, Johann Zarco, one of a number of big-name Ducatis, maybe not got the overall race pace over the full distance of Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Quartararo, but looking well set for another podium challenge here today in Germany.
Luca Marini's had back-to-back top 6 finishes coming here to the Sachsenring. He starts from the 3rd row of the grid. Said in his own words, it was a difficult day yesterday. He didn't feel totally happy with the bike, but as I put to him on the interview set yesterday, it's surely a sign of progress that on a bad day, on a difficult day, you're still inside the top 3 rows, which he agreed with. There's a tweet from Marc Marquez, the king of the ring, of course. Usually when we come to the Sachsenring, it's pretty much a standard procedure that we hail the king of the ring, and another victory for Marc Marquez at the end of 30 laps of the Sachsenring, but of course not this year. Marc Marquez is recovering from a 4th surgery on that injured right humerus, but the first medical revision has taken place and it is progressing well. So Marc Marquez's road to recovery is well underway. Still plenty of support for him in this part of the world. He was unparalleled around this Sachsenring circuit. We wish Marc Marquez well in his recovery from injury as he loans his crown as the king of the ring for 1 year at least.
11 successive wins here at the Saxon Ring for Marc Marquez. A 125cc win, a couple of Moto2 wins, and then truly untouchable around the Saxon Ring circuit for the last 8 years in MotoGP, winning every Grand Prix he's participated in the Premier Class since 2013. What about Joan Mir then? A tough racing prospect again for him. Vibrations on the front end of that factory Suzuki in qualifying yesterday. 17th he started the last 2 Grand Prix. A stunning fight back through the pack to 4th place last time out in Barcelona. It should really have been 4th had it not been for the costly miscalculation by Aleix Espargaro. And can he break this recent trend, Joan Mir? The last 10 races that he's participated in MotoGP have been either 4th, 6th or DNF, and he's looking for inspiration as well. We talked about this in the morning warm-up session. Pecco Bagnaia, the poleman, was 16th at the end of lap 4 1 year ago here, and fought his way through to 5th place. Brad Binder as well. He was 13th to 7th on the very first lap, so if you can be aggressive, although it is tight, particularly in the first sector around this Saxon Ring, there are passes to be made, particularly in turn 1, turn 3 down into Omega, turn 8, 12 and 13 as well.
Well, I think Joan Mir might take a 4th if that was offered to him today, although, as you say, he has certainly been looking for more than that so far in 2022. It was a bit of a gift, of course, as you say, for him to finish 4th in the Saxon Ring. He was in Catalunya, should I say, he was promoted on the final lap by that mistake for Aleix Espargaro. But signs of the old Joan Mir returning this weekend, which is good to see for us all after a really rotten couple of races in Mugello in particular and Le Mans, where neither Suzuki saw the checkered flag. And while we're talking on the subject of Suzuki, it is worth pointing out to you, if you're just joining us and you haven't been with us through the weekend, no Alex Rins in this afternoon's Grand Prix. Of course, he was part of that dramatic first lap incident at the Catalan Grand Prix with Taka Nakagami and Pecco Bagnaia. A broken wrist for Alex Rins. He did come here and made an effort to compete in the weekend. Took part in the first 3 free practice sessions, but following that 3rd session, he made the decision that it was just the right decision to sit this one out and recover and rest for next weekend's Dutch TT at Assen, where Alex Rins does go well around that circuit. So Joan Mir going it alone for Suzuki this afternoon. We wish Alex Rins the very best as he looks to recover from injury and be back to something like full fitness next weekend at Assen. Well,
we always knew Michelin tyre choice was going to be absolutely critical for this 30-lap German Grand Prix. Was it going to be a choice between the medium and the hard rear tyre? The medium will give you the better performance, but the bigger drop-off in the early part of the Grand Prix. Well, we've just had a provisional tyre sheet released here by Michelin, and there are not too many anomalies on the grid. At the moment, everybody's gone for the hard rear tyre, apart from Repsol Honda's Pol Espargaro, Suzuki's Joan Mir, and Fabio Quartararo. Then he's come to the grid with the medium rear tyre, Quartararo. It's going to be so decisive, in particular the last 10 laps. Who can manage the left-hand side of the tyre with the excessive heat generation on the shoulder of the rear tyre? So as it stands, there are just 3 riders at the moment contemplating starting this 30-lap race in the hottest conditions of the weekend so far. Pol Espargaro, Joan Mir and Fabio Quartararo. Have your voice heard. Be part of the world's largest MotoGP survey. Tens of thousands you have already started to make your thoughts. Give us feedback on how we can improve the greatest motorsport show in Earth. Go to MotoGP.com and keep a close eye on our social media channels for all the information and how you can help us make this great sport, as we say, even bigger and better than it already is. Quickly coming back to the Michelin tyre selection as well. Enea Bastianini's really taking a punt here. He's gone for the medium front tyre, the only rider potentially starting this race without the hard front. He's got to make some aggressive moves early on, hasn't he, Bastianini? Maybe feels like he hasn't got the feeling with the hard front. Front-end confidence has been lacking for the Italian, maybe lacking stability through those high-speed corners here in the Saxon Ring. So he has gone, as we stand at the moment, for the medium front tyre. Everybody else on the hard front, and just 3 riders in this 23 pack who will not, we think, start with the hard rear.
Well, the headline, as you say, from that tyre information that we've got so far from Michelin, of course, there is still time for that to change before the Grand Prix gets underway, is Fabio Quartararo on the medium rear. He was on the fence after qualifying yesterday in free practice 4 as to which rear tyre he was going to run. It was 50-50, he said, between the medium and the hard. He wasn't happy at all with the harder tyre on Friday. He said it didn't feel like a new tyre when he put it on. and he didn't get that initial feedback and that initial confidence for him to push in the early stages of the Grand Prix. Of course, it was arguably in those first 2 laps where Fabio Quartararo really won the Catalan Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. So maybe Quartararo's making the decision with the medium that he wants that initial performance from the tyre to get out front early, and he can then manage from there. Even in these hotter conditions, that might be the strategy that Fabio Quartararo adopts over the 30 laps of this Grand Prix. The start is going to be all important.
Yeah, what about Johann Zarco? 3rd on the grid. It might actually be a bit of a helping hand on the inside for turn 1. So a good start actually might grab him the whole shot.
Yeah, he's on the front row of the grid on the inside. Jack Miller also has the inside line, although remember he has that long lap penalty to come in the Grand Prix. So it's Bagnaia, Quartararo, Zarco, your front row. Aleix Espargaro, Di Giannantonio and Miller, row 2. Marini, Martin and Viñales on row 3. Nakagami, Bezzecchi and Mir on row 4. Of course, Mir is one of the other riders on the medium rear. So too Pol Espargaro heads row 5, ahead of the leading KTMs of Miguel Oliveira and Brad Binder. Alex Marquez, a 16th place on the grid for him. That's higher than he's qualified in recent races. He starts just ahead of Enea Bastianini and the sole German in the field, Stefan Bradl, stepping in, of course, for Marc Marquez. Andrea Dovizioso and Franco Morbidelli, the next of the Yamahas, on the penultimate row in 19th and 20th, ahead of Remy Gardner and Ralph Hernandez, with Darren Binder in 23rd position.
So the tension builds, the temperature certainly building down there on the grid. Let's pop back down to Sun Crafar. Maya Meregali, Monster Energy Yamaha team boss. Crucial decisions have already been taken, potentially with Fabio Quartararo opting potentially for that medium rear tyre. How decisive could that be? Let's get the pre-race thoughts. Up Mayo with Simon on the grid.
He is. He's just getting some encouragement from the legend Giacomo Agostini. Mayo, tell us, what are your thoughts? Because tyre degradation, the riders are saying it's tougher on tyres here than even in Catalunya last weekend, and we've heard Fabio's come to the grid on a medium rear. Tell us what your thoughts are.
I lost my thought, Simon.
What, talking to the legend Giacomo?
No, anyway, it's not easy, and they know they have to really manage the tyre degradation. Here is very demanding, you know, there are many corners on the left, it's very hot. And the track improved from Friday to yesterday, but we checked. Tire degradation looks quite similar between hard and medium. How the medium behave looks like a bit better than the hard. And in this moment, even though he said that the last decision will be taken on the grid, I think is more than enough.
Tell us, from what I saw, Fabio didn't look comfortable. He didn't look happy every time he used the hard rear. Is that part of the decision?
Well, yesterday in the FP4, he did a good run with the hard, and then he went on the medium. Honestly, the best lap he did was on the hard. But he said overall, the feeling, the behavior of the bike with the medium was a bit more smooth. And he didn't feel any drop, even though we didn't do all the race distance. This morning we finished, and yeah, it's still the decision more on the medium side. I think in a couple of minutes we will know. But anyway, I trust on him, in his feeling, and also the technician basically were supporting his feeling, let's say.
Good luck, Mayo, because he looked one of the 2 strongest riders here so far this weekend. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Maya Meregali. Well, they just about seem convinced with that medium rear tyre. Maybe even a last-minute decision for Fabio Quartararo, but he has looked more comfortable and confident on that rear tyre. Will he maybe even try and do what he did last time out in Barcelona, get the whole shot and then be really aggressive? He was almost 3 seconds clear by the end of lap 3, wasn't he? And then just manage the grip towards the end of the race. With that medium, it should come to him quicker than the guys around him on the hard. So if Quartararo can bolt, and with clear track ahead of him, we know how dangerous he can be, you just wonder whether that might have influenced his decision as well.
Yeah, the medium tyre has that better initial performance, but it does drop earlier in the Grand Prix, so there might be more management of it required towards the end of the Grand Prix. That harder tyre doesn't have as good initial performance, but it doesn't have the same drop towards the end of the Grand Prix. So A number of riders playing the long game and going for that harder rear tyre, but Quartararo, as mentioned, perhaps realising how important the early laps are to try and get ahead of Bagnaia early and not have to sit in the slipstream of that Ducati and really go for that medium time and go for that initial performance.
Was that a late change potentially coming from one of the Gresini Ducati rides? One of their mechanics was hurtling towards the grid with a tyre and a tyre warmer. Well, it's been a great weekend so far for the factory Ducati team. Pecco Bagnaia has been superb right from the first lap of FP1. Can he get the job done though in this 30-lap German Grand Prix coming up very, very shortly? He starts from pole position as the big pre-race favourite. Let's hear the thoughts of the Ducati Lenovo team boss Davide Tardozzi with Simon.
Davide, this is crazy hot down here. Both of your riders, both Jack and Pecco, have looked great all weekend. What are your concerns today?
Yeah, just that they have a good start and that there are no problems on the first 2 laps. But anyway, Jack has to make the long lap, and this will let him miss some positions. But I think he can have the race pace, the speed to be on the podium. I think that the main competitor will be obviously Aleix and Fabio, but I guess that 3 Ducatis are there fighting on the podium.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Simon, thanks to Davide Tardozzi. There is Jack Mir. Then we remind you, has to have a long lap penalty. Needs a big race here today, doesn't he? The 27-year-old Aussie, just 3 points in the last 2 Grand Prix after his Le Mans podium. What a great sight that is then. Packed grandstands. That's the sight that we love to see here at the Sachsenring. That's down through turn 7, a great vantage point, and great to see one of the most famous and iconic names in MotoGP history, the 15 times world champion, Italy's iconic Giacomo Agostini, celebrated very recently his 80th birthday, 80 years of age. Giacomo Agostini, I tell you what, if I could look like that when I was 80, I'd sign up right now. Still looking fit as a fiddle, and great to see him here, still very much part of the MotoGP World Championship family. Now then, how many times have we talked since FP1 here on Friday about the importance, the significant part that Michelin's tyres will play in this Grand Prix? Fabio Quartararo, we know, or we think he's going for that medium rear tyre. Let's hear the pre-race impressions of Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso with Simon.
Piero, we saw Fabio's looking at least at the medium, considering it's really hot. I'd love to know exactly what sort of track temperature and what are your concerns about the race?
Yes, it's really hot. It's 51 degrees now on the grid, but no, the medium rear, this is the choice for Fabio, for Maverick, for Joan Mir, also Paul. They choose to go with the medium. It's a raceable solution. On the first lap, you can get more grip for sure, and then you have to manage it through the end. But it's doable. It's not a risky choice. And then for the front, everybody's with the front hard, and Bastianini, he chooses the front medium just because more feedback. So we will see at the end of the race. But yeah, it will be a good race.
Just curious what you think will be the point where the tyres will struggle, like, well, for example, the medium compared to the hard.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say because, you know, the race is 30 laps. We never did 30 laps in a row. Even we did 11, 12 maximum. But I will say about 2/3 of the race, the rear medium, it might start to drop a little bit, but the riders, they can still compensate and do good lap time. And only the last 7 laps we can see drop in the lap time. For the rear will be rear hard will be a little bit later, so I will say the last 5 laps.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks Simon, thanks to Piero Taramasso. This could be, as Luca Marini put it yesterday, a battle of survival. So it seems like a late change, a drop down from the hard to the medium rear tyre for Aprilia's Maverick Viñales. We're just wondering, actually looking at our commentary box window, where there's been a late switch as well for Enea Bastianini's front tyre. He was the only man, as Piero Taramasso confirmed there, we think, that was potentially starting this race with the medium front. Of course, the man who's been without his crew chief, Alberto Giroviola, all weekend. Alberto sidelined with a positive COVID-19 test. We wish him well. Now then, Aprilia, can they make up for the bitter disappointment of Aleix Espargaro missing out on what looked like a certain second place last time out in his home Grand Prix? Let's hear from Aprilia's Paolo Bonera on the grid.
Paolo, I always feel lucky talking to you because you really know what's going on. Please share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, as you can see, there is over 30 degrees of temperature, so will be a very difficult race for everybody. and in particular to manage the tire will be the key for to stay in the top during this race.
Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonora there then from Aprilia. What a season they're having. Aleix Espargaro, 7th top 5 on the grid for him in 2022. And he's desperate, fully determined, fully motivated, as you'd expect, to make up for that big mistake last time out in Barcelona. There you go in the Sachsenring. It's our shortest circuit on the Grand Prix calendar. One of only 5 anti-clockwise tracks we go to in 2022, with Austin, Motul and Aragon, Phillip Island. We hope to be back in Australia, of course, in late October. And the final round in Valencia, as we look at Jorge Martin. Don't discount Martin from posing a podium threat very, very shortly. He's got a bit of work to do to pick his way through from the middle of the 3rd row in 8th place. Not easy to get through on the likes of Marini, Miller, Gian Antonio and Espargaro definitely ahead of him. But having rediscovered that nice, sweet front-end feeling after a pretty bleak mid-season patch, Jorge Martin, a fully fit Jorge Martin as well now, he may well be a dark horse for that top 3.
Pecco Bagnaia keeping cool then as he returns to the grid. We've spoken all weekend about how hot the temperatures are. It is stifling heat on the grid. The hottest conditions of the weekend. Both the body and the machinery will be put to the test. 30 laps of the Sachsenring ahead of us for the best riders in the world. How will they cope with these brutal conditions that they're set for here at the Sachsenring?
So very, very shortly we'll pause for the traditional pre-race ceremony, the German national anthem being sung by Luisa Closer.
Einigkeit und Recht und Freiheit sind des Glückes Unterpfand. Blüh im Glanze dieses Glückes, blühe deutsches Vaterland. Blüh im Glanze dieses Glückes, blühe deutsches Vaterland.
Great rendition then of the German national anthem, sung beautifully by Luisa Closer. The German fans on their feet now as they get set for the German Grand Prix here at the Sachsenring. Dignitaries and of course key officials from MotoGP now taking part in that special grid ceremony. Let's quickly pop back down on the grid then. Simon Crafar with Suzuki boss Livio Suppo, their sole entry in this race. Joan Mir, down to you guys.
Yes, Livio, only Joan on the grid today with Alex out with injury. But I've got to say, Joan was super impressive in FP4, as we were speaking about in morning warm-up this morning. What do you think he can do from so far back on the grid today?
Sure depends a lot on the start. If he can do a good start, like for example the one of Alex in Portimao, then he can really fight for the podium. Otherwise, if he's stuck in the traffic at the beginning, it will be more difficult, but it's a long race. Tire management will be crucial. So I'm positive. I believe he can do a good race.
Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Thanks to Livio Suppo. Thanks, Simon. There is South African Darren Binder at the back of the grid. 23 riders in this race, of course, with Alex Rins sadly sidelined through injury. He's having a pretty good run at the moment. He's the younger of the Binder siblings. 12th in Catalonia last time out was his best dry race result. As we look at Luca Marini, he said yesterday this 30-lap race in these hot conditions, by far the hottest we've had of the weekend so far. There's been a bit of a heat wave sweeping through mainland Europe and has hit this part of Germany big time. Luca Marini, 7th on the Muni VR46 Racing Ducati team, and there's still a Rossi grandstand here paying homage to his retired brother Valentino Rossi. He was Yamaha's last winner at the Sachsenring circuit back in 2009. Marc Marquez, of course, took 8 consecutive MotoGP wins here. Honda have taken our last 11 wins here, but we're going to see potentially a new name and a new manufacturer occupying P1 in Parc Ferme in about, what, 50 minutes' time.
It'll be something of a surprise if that name is Andrea Dovizioso, although Dovizioso, of course, has taken no fewer than 15 victories in the Premier class. He's got plenty of support there in the grandstands. Very popular figure is Dovi, but he's got his work cut out today. He starts from 19th position on the grid. He's the second highest Yamaha, unbelievably, on the grid, which just puts into context what a job Fabio Quartararo is doing, the World Championship leader. Currently leads Aleix Espargaro by 22 points. Can he extend that over the course of 30 laps here this afternoon? Here he is.
Will it be the big showdown then between Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Quartararo? We saw it so often towards the back end of last year. The predicted race pace then around the mid-121s. Pecco Bagnaia was the first man to fire in a sub-80-second lap around this Sachsenring circuit yesterday. He had a fantastic Friday, followed it up with a super Saturday to take pole position for the 9th time in his MotoGP career. Can ill afford to lose more points going into summer break to championship leader Fabio Quartararo being torpedoed out at turn 1 by Nakagami. Last time out in Barcelona means Bagnaia coming into round 10, 66 points adrift of this man Fabio Quartararo, who gets some late words of encouragement, the fist bumps from his Monster Energy Yamaha crew ahead of this 30-lap Grand Prix then.
So 2 clear changes on the grid that we've just been informed of by Michelin. As we heard from Piero Taramasso, Maverick Vinales has gone with the medium rear tyre, and interestingly, Joan Mir has switched back to the harder rear. He was one of the riders who did come on the medium rear to the grid. He has switched to the hard.
It just gives you a clear indication, doesn't it, just how much these riders and teams were torn about which rear tyre to go for. Last year, in cooler conditions, much cooler conditions, the track temperature last year was 39 degrees, about 12 degrees cooler than what we've got this afternoon. Pecco Bagnaia was the only man who finished inside the top 11 that went for the medium-medium combination. Nobody taking that kind of a risk or gamble in these hot conditions here, as Fabio Quartararo and Fabio the Gianantonio. Fabio from Fabio, 2nd and 5th on the grid. They try and keep themselves as cool as possible before the get-go here in Sachsenring. Johann Zarco then, the 31-year-old Frenchman, starts in the front row of a MotoGP race for the 25th time in his Premier Class career. It's finally today the day where he breaks his victory duck in MotoGP. 22 points clear of Aleix Espargaro in the World Championship coming into this round 10. It's Fabio Quartararo on the Monster Energy Yamaha machine, the only man on the front row who's gone for the medium rear tyre. Is there going to be more brilliance though from Bagnaia? A record-breaking day for him yesterday. He's on pole position on the Ducati here in Germany.
With the King of the Ring absent through injury, who will step onto his throne here at the Sachsenring? Pecco Bagnaia starts from pole position ahead of the World Championship leader Fabio Quartararo. Can he make that medium rear tyre last? Johann Zarco completes the front row with Aleix Espargaro for a prettier heading row 2. The Suzuki Challenge is the sole contender. Joan Mir, the number 36, starting P12, with Takaki Nakagami the leading